Welcome to the RV Canucks, the podcast for part-time road warriors and weekend wanderers. I'm Melina.
And I'm Dan.
And today we're turning up the heat with a head-to-head battle of the beach towns, where two of Ontario's most beloved provincial parks and their adjacent beach towns go toe-to-toe for camping glory. In one corner, we've got Sauble Falls Provincial Park, tucked beside the iconic Sauble Beach, and the electric vibe of Grand Bend just minutes away with our other contender, the Pinery. So it's cozy versus colossal, it's chill versus charged, sunsets versus surf sets. We're going to be breaking it all down: park vibes, town eats, campsite realities, and yes, those brutally honest one-star reviews. So whether you're scouting the next spot to park your rig or just dreaming about your next lakeside escape, this battle's got you covered. So grab your marshmallows, fire up the GPS, and let's dive into the battle of the beach towns, Sauble Falls versus the Pinery. And very exciting for us, we are going to pause for our first ever sponsor break.
Hey there, RV adventurers. You're tuned in to the RV Canucks Podcast. This season, we're rolling in style with the support of our 2025 sponsor, Niagara Trailers. Family-owned since 1972, Niagara Trailers has been helping Canadians find their perfect home on wheels for over 50 years. Ever dreamt of hitting the open road with total freedom and comfort? Make those dreams a reality at Niagara Trailers' annual open house, happening April 25th through 27th, 2025. With over 400 on-site new and used trailers and an on-site parts store, the friendly team at Niagara Trailers is dedicated to helping you find just the right fit. Whether you're looking for a cozy travel trailer to explore Ontario's hidden gems or a spacious fifth wheel for that cross-country adventure, Niagara Trailers has it. During this special 3-day event, you'll get exclusive access to new models, on-site financing options, and expert advice. From choosing the perfect RV to tackling maintenance and everything in between. Visit NiagaraTrailers.com for more details. And remember, it's worth the drive.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. So you may be wondering, sponsor, what's that all about? Well, I am very excited to say, or we are very excited to say, that this episode, although officially episode 57 in our long list of podcasts, is officially the start of season 5. So this is our 5th year of doing the podcast. We've had great success with it. We're so pleased with all of the great people that we've been able to meet. And we decided that this year we would allow the opportunity for some trusted partners that we have in the industry to sponsor the podcast this season. So this year, as you heard, our season sponsor is Niagara Trailers. We're really excited about it, mostly because we now have direct access to one of the best in the industry as far as advice, maintenance, service, sales. So if you have any RV related questions that you would like us to pose or you would like us to cover with the folks at Niagara Trailers this season, let us know and we will make sure to pass those along and give you some great content.
I think they're just such a great team. Like, they've been doing this long, like the business has been doing it longer. Niagara Trails has been doing it longer than some of us have been alive. So there's definitely a lot of knowledge and experience and stability in their dealership. And I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So on to the battle.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay. Well, I should say happy 5th anniversary, I guess.
Happy 5th anniversary.
Do you remember where we were on our actual 5th anniversary?
I believe we should be referring people back to haunted places because we stayed at a really haunted bed and breakfast on Wolf Island. It was Wolf Island in Kingston.
It was Wolf Island. Good memory. So yeah, if you're interested about that, we stayed in a haunted house for our 5th anniversary. That was super not romantic. But if you want to know about that, go find, I don't even remember the podcast episode. I'll have to put it in the show notes. But it was our first ever, like, the most haunted places we've camped episode, which would have come out the 1st October of 2020 that we did the podcast. So go check it out if you want a hilarious/scary story of our 5th anniversary in a haunted house. But we are here to talk about provincial parks, specifically, I would say 2 of our favorites, but we're going to sort of declare a winner at the end and stick around if you want to find out if Dan and I have the same winner, because we actually haven't even talked about our declared winner, so they might be totally different. And for those watching the podcast on video, you might see your first ever fist fight. So stick around. Might be exciting. So as mentioned, we are comparing, or we are putting head to head Sauble Falls Provincial Park and the Pinery, which some would argue are 2 like very distinct, very different parks. But the reason we picked these parks to kind of do a little bit of a versus episode on was because of the beach towns that they're adjacent to. And I think those have, you know, pretty similar yet somewhat different vibes. So we wanted to kind of really compare, if you were looking for that kind of beach town experience, what you can expect. So real quick, Sauble Falls Provincial Park, if you don't know, it's situated on the Saugeen River near the famous Sauble Beach in Ontario. There is some scenic waterfalls. It's got a really small footprint. It's got a more cozy vibe. It's got an overall Google rating of 4.4. But our initial impressions, which we'll talk about, it's super tight. The Pinery, on the other hand, is massive. It spans, I think it's like 10 kilometers of beaches. I'll have to look that up. But it's along Lake Huron near Grand Bend. There's really great sandy beaches there. There's dunes. There's forested camping. It has a slightly higher Google rating of 4.7, and it is like super big, and we'll give you a little bit of a story on why we might think it's a little too big.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the beach towns a little bit, and then I think we'll maybe jump into the specifics of the park. So how would you categorize like Sauble Beach? If I were just to ask you, like, what's the vibe of Sauble Beach?
It's pretty chill. It's got more of the casual, old-time cottager type. Like the cottages are a little bit older. They're really nice, but they're not palatial estates. There's some money there, but it's more subtle.
Yeah, I would say it's more like traditional cottage vibes, as in like the sizes of a lot of the beach cottages are still kind of like, you would think like post-World War II, like houses like that, about that size, which I love. It's very quaint, very laid back, sort of, very family oriented. There's great ice cream shops. There's, that typical like beach gear type of stores where you can go in and buy swimsuits and surfboards and bathing suits and that kind of stuff, like that kind of vibe that you would see even in like a Hawaii beach town, which I really, really like, but it's like very unassuming. There's the Sauble Speedway just down the road in Hepworth. There is a really good mini golf course there. And then they have this area right on the beach, or right across the beach, which has like, I guess it's an adventure park. You like hook up to the, what's it
kind
called?
of like zip lines and slides kind of thing, right? Kind of good for like older kids, maybe.
Older kids, teens, preteens.
Yeah.
Really good facilities. Like that washroom there that's right behind the zip line thing is always very clean. The beach itself is really nice. It's wide. It's shallow. The water's really great. So like you're getting all the best things about Lake Huron without this like like party vibe that I think exists maybe a little more in Grand Bend.
Yeah, and I think once you get there, when you're trying to get to the beach from the park, you're probably going to drive. If you're bringing towels and beach toys and coolers and everything else, you're going to want to drive. Pay attention to where your park is, what I want to say. Like, you need to pay for parking. You can't just park on a side street and amble over a block to the beach. You need to pay for parking. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Other thing, like Practical Dan coming out here, the grocery store was pretty good. So if you've forgotten something, chances are you can pick it up pretty easily from the campsite.
Yeah. And what I would say for both of these towns, you can't walk to them easily. You can't really bike to them easily, given that the roads they're on. But I think the benefit of Sauble Beach is that it's only 5 kilometers from Sauble Falls Provincial Park.
Yeah. Really easy to get into.
Yeah. Now, Grand Bend, on the other hand, is a little bit, I guess, more commercial is how I would characterize it. Like, it's still very beachy, but you will see like some chain restaurants on the main drag up to the beach that are kind of like disguised as beachfront.
Yeah, I think the other thing is I've lived in this area of southwestern Ontario for my whole life. I don't want to say how long that is right now, but Grand Bend is on the upswing. And so when I mentioned it, it's a little bit more cottagey in Sauble Beach. I don't remember, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but the general feeling is the cottages that are there are more like houses. They've been redone, lots of fancy boats. There's a boat launch. People are getting in kind of on the river at Grand Bend to go out on the lake. So I actually really like both towns. I think I remember a restaurant just near the boat launch where I got perched that day, which was nice. Like, it's something you can't get in most beach towns. I mean, you can get it down in Port Dover and along Lake Erie, but I really enjoyed that part of Grand Bend.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I think if we were like categorize this like in a ski town sense, Grand Bend to me is more like Blue Mountain, and Sauble is more like, where's that place we went skiing where our car got broken into?
Oh, was it Horseshoe?
Yeah, that's like the vibe difference, right?
I was going to say like Grand Bend is probably more Banff and Sauble Beach is more Jasper, but like you get the idea.
Fair. That's probably a better comparison.
And that's not meant to run any of those 4 places down. They're all great places.
Yeah. But listen, you've got restaurants and like a definite night scene, I think, in Grand Bend for sure. Not that it's not really there in Sauble, but it's not super there in Sauble. Like there's only a couple of places on the beach that would be open. More of a festival type scene, right? They have a very lively beach. There is the Lambton Heritage Museum, which is kind of between the Pinery and Grand Bend, which is really neat. There's also the Grand Bend Motorplex, which is more of like a drag raceway as opposed to like the Sauble one is like a 1/4 mile oval. And then let's talk about the Pinery Market for a quick second before we jump into the parks, because I think that's one of my favorite things about that area, and that's like open on Sundays 9 to 4, and it's a really good like flea market.
It's really eclectic. It's got some food, so we picked up some pierogies and cabbage rolls from a Ukrainian vendor. There's like little wood crafts, games kind of things that have been handmade, probably sunglasses. Cider. Oh, yeah. So there's a few different like craft ciders down there. There's a little bit of everything, really. It's really eclectic. It's not too uppity. So it's really casual, scoot in. Didn't take too long to see the whole thing. I'd say it was like just about the right size. Yeah,
and I didn't actually write down the prices. I think last summer when we went, it was like $3 a car or something like that. I could be wrong though. Check the website. But it's for a day out or an afternoon out. Like you can spend your time wandering around there and like cute little antiques and stuff. So I'd say that's definitely a highlight for me. So I think that's kind of like the base level expectations for the 2 towns. But I want to talk about the parks because I think we're here to talk about the parks. And when we said Sauble Falls has a smaller layout, like I'll let Dan take this away because when we went there, I was working and I met him there. So poor Dan had to set up by himself. So maybe I'll let you talk about like sort of the tightness of the park.
So this is like, we always tell people, look ahead, do your research. So Dan did not look ahead and Dan didn't do his research. So, we had a reservation. We booked a site that was appropriate for the size of our trailer. I figured it's like 99% of all other provincial parks. I'm going to drive in. I'm going to get my permit. I'm going to fill up with water. I'm going to go to my campsite and I'll back myself in. If I have to get somebody to help me kind of ground guide me in, then that's what I'll do. So I made a deliberate point of trying to get there before the sun went down. Keep in mind, I did this by myself.
Good boy.
Good boy. I drove up. I got to the gate. The lady checked me in. She said, do you have water? Did you fill up? And I'm like, no. And as soon as she said that, before she said another word, I'm like, there's a catch. So what ended up happening is there's 2 campgrounds, one on the east side, one on the west side. I was on the west side. That's where the main gatehouse is. She's like, you have to go over to the east side, take your first right. You're going to pull in, you're going to get water. I'm like, okay. So it was easy enough to pull ahead, do a U-turn, go to the east side of the highway. I'm going to admit the signage wasn't great. She said, take your first right. There's actually 2 rights. I got into the east campground. There wasn't a lot of signage, at least for me, trying to make sure I don't hit a tree, a kid, to find my way to the water. I had a general sense of where it was. The roads are a little narrower in this park because I think this park is a little older at a time when trailers and trucks were smaller, but
70s-ish.
Yeah. So at one point I drove down the road and I'm head to head with a fella in a 5th wheel. Fortunately, we were near the comfort station. He went right, I went my right. We got around each other. I eventually get in and I get water. It's a little tight with a 30-foot trailer, but I did it. 29-foot trailer, but I did it. I filled up with water, and then there's a decision to be made. And the decision is, do I drive back out the way I came in, back to my campsite, or there's a sign that says, do not enter, but I can very clearly see that if I do not enter the do not enter area, it's the works area where they park all their trucks, and it goes straight to the highway. That was one of the right turns that she failed to mention. I was with myself. I erred on the side of safety. I went through the do not enter area, pulled onto the highway, got to my campsite. Got set up. It was a pretty straight back in near a comfort station. It was nice and easy. So that went well. If I have committed some kind of crime in an Ontario Provincial Park, I will turn myself in and do my time. I got myself in, I got leveled, I got set up. That part was fine. Because maybe we're telling this story chronologically, because there's more to come at the end. So stay tuned.
We'll come back to the exit of the park later. But if you want a quick overview, so Sauble Falls like Dan said, there's an east campground and a west campground, and the campground is essentially sliced in two by a county road, the Sauble Parkway, I think it's called, which is really important if you are traveling with like pets, small kids, and you're on the east side, like the playgrounds, the falls, the canoe and kayak access point, the volleyball courts, like all of that is on the west side. So if you have small kids, you don't want them crossing the road alone, and the traffic can be kind of busy. Like,
it's a 2-lane highway, and people are like, especially in the summer, it's a very popular vacation area, so you would definitely want to make sure you're looking left and right before you cross the road.
It's kind of on a curve, like it's just after a curve too, so just something to keep in mind. And then keep in mind, you know, the dump station and the water are on the east side, but there's only 152 sites in the whole park, and if you have a rig that's over 32 feet, there's only 6 sites in the entire park that can take a rig over 32 feet. So it is definitely a smaller footprint for sure. There's 2 group camping sites in the east campground near the dump and fill stations. The west campground is actually radio free, which was okay. Like, we usually play music and stuff, but, you know, I think it's kind of, if you think of Sauble and you think of, you know, people in the summer and long weekend antics, like, they just make it radio free all the time just so they don't have to police as much, I think.
Yeah, Sauble does have a bit of a, well, and so does Grand Bend. They both have a bit of a party history in the past. There's a lot of high school kids that go up there towards graduation day for the day at the beach, and so I can see why they might have radio free up there. But it never really took away from our trip.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say bathhouses, there's 2 bathhouses, one on the east, one on the west. You know, typical Ontario Park, reasonably clean, or I would say clean. And then there's additional vault toilets and drop toilets throughout the park. Let's talk about, well, we talked about the water station. So the dump station is like same setup, right? And there's only one.
And it's the same spot. Like, you're filling and dumping in the same spot. So at the end of the day, you have to go back over to that side and dump on that side again.
And I think we had to wait for somebody, or I came over with you. I was just going to book it home because we had 2 vehicles. But you had me come over with you to kind of direct.
Just a second set of eyes was helpful. You know, could I have done it myself? Obviously, I've done it once already, but still it was helpful to do that. Yeah.
Let's talk about exiting the park maybe, and then we'll go to the Pinery.
So exiting the park, here's our story. You'll remember earlier on here I told you that we booked an appropriate size site for our trailer, meaning sometimes it's not just the site itself, it's the bends in the road. So getting out, we followed the road out. We followed the proper route out. We got to a point just near the comfort station where they had very clearly done some recent upgrades. Things were added. I think there was an electric vehicle charging station. Before you scoot up there in your electric vehicle, double check that it's still there. But I feel like that was one of the upgrades. Yeah. There's a small little fence. What this meant is somebody had parked, and they didn't do anything wrong. They were parked. For us to make the turn to get out, I had to go over and knock on the fellow's window and say, like, can you do me a favor, buddy? I'm really sorry, but I need you to move your car because I need to swing out and around. And so it wasn't because I pushed the limits of the site. They just, it's a little tight. Maybe their information wasn't accurate. Obviously, I didn't want to hit anybody's car, but it was a little tight to get out. So should that stop you from going there? No, I did it. I probably wouldn't want to stay on the west side campground and try and get out in a bigger trailer, but keep this in mind. I went up by myself, did most of it by myself, and I got in and out okay. So 2 people showing up with a smaller trailer should probably be okay. Like, if you're showing up 25, 26 feet, I would think you're probably okay.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Other thing I want to just jump in here as a promotion of Sauble Beach is it's a good spot for like walking trails, riding your bike, doing that kind of stuff. And even because it's on the river, if you've got a kid who likes to fish, they can pack up their backpack, they can go over to the river and they can fish the river themselves from the east campground. So if, you know, who doesn't want their kid to play outside and do what they should be doing instead of on their phone or doing that kind of stuff? So it's a good spot for that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I would say if you really enjoy canoeing and kayaking, the Sauble River is really, really great. Like, it's a slow-moving river. We saw tons of wildlife, turtles. Like, it's really pleasurable to paddle both ways, right? There's not a ton of current. Like, it's just a really nice wide river to paddle.
Well, we went and rented 2 kayaks from the park and we went up for a couple hours, and that was one of the best camping experiences in the last few years that I can remember. Like, it's a really good spot for that. It was an enjoyable time. Maybe we saw one glimpse of a road, even though we were in the middle of kind of that Grey Bruce area. So it was amazing. It was awesome. Really enjoyed it. And I would recommend that you take the time to do that if you go to Sauble Beach.
For sure. And the falls themselves, they're nice. Yeah. Majestic. No, like they're not like, I mean, this is going to mean nothing to anybody, but Bridal Veil Falls, which is where we used to go, like kind of out west, like it's not a huge, it's like a cascading waterfall is how I would say, but it's nice. It's nice to sit there and have a look at. Sometimes you will see people like paddling around, like it's kind of like a stepped cascading waterfall. And sometimes you see people getting in the water there. It's not sanctioned. It says on the Ontario Park site, like not official. And you kind of really never know what the flow is going to do. So maybe like not a great idea, because the rocks would be certainly very slippery, but we have seen people in that water for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of the Pinery. So the Pinery, if you don't know of it, if you're thinking of coming to Ontario, it is one of Ontario's largest campgrounds. It is also one of Ontario's big five. So if you follow us on YouTube, there's a video there that goes through how to successfully book with Ontario Parks, which is like a whole other topic, the 7 a.m., nightmare of trying to get on a site. And there's 5 campgrounds in Ontario's, like what are like 114 campgrounds that are always booked, and the Pinery is one of them. So keep that in mind. You can still find a spot. Like we went there in June. Was it Father's Day weekend? I think it was Father's Day weekend.
Oh, maybe it was.
It was Father's Day weekend. We still managed to get a spot, and we did not book 5 months out, I don't think. And so with those types of parks, you can still get a spot, but maybe be flexible in terms of like your start dates and end dates, and maybe look at what's available before you book your holidays from work is what I would say for that. So super popular, always very busy, but it's also really large. So it doesn't like feel super busy, but I would say, there's over 1,000 campsites. So compare that to the 152 that we just talked about in Sauble Falls. It's massive. There's 3 campgrounds, the Dune, Riverside, and Burley campgrounds. We stayed in Burley. There's 10 group camping sites. There is a pet-free area. So I think area 4 in the Dunes campground is pet-free, and area 3 in Riverside is radio-free. And there's also 8 cabins and 6 yurts. So like no matter how you want to camp, no matter what vibe you want, you'll find it at the Pinery, which was really good. And they've got a lot of options for, larger trailers and big rigs and things like that. So there's also 14 comfort stations. So you are not going to have to walk too far. A lot of flush toilets, hot showers in them. And then there's additional vault toilets sort of all over the park. There is 2 dump stations and 2 fill stations. So they're right after the gatehouse on the way into the park. And then there's one at the Riverside campground. So I would say they're pretty well located, but the fact that there's only 2 with 1,000 campsites, like it's going to get busy at peak times for sure. And I think we sort of planned our exits for sure. I think we left a little bit later just to kind of maybe avoid the rush, because I don't remember waiting too long for the dump station on the way back, but...
No, we really didn't wait too long on the way back. We weren't in a rush. I don't remember it taking us a long time. It wasn't the longest wait we've ever had at some other parks. So the fact that it was an eventful experience is what you want when you're at the dump station, isn't it?
Yes, let's hope.
We haven't talked about the park store. The park store is something else.
Yeah.
Like it's more than just matches and a t-shirt. Like it's got everything. And I feel was the restaurant...
It was open.
Cooking? Yeah, so
yeah.
It's got a little restaurant there, which if you're familiar with Ontario Provincial Parks is not common.
Yeah.
So that's probably why it's in the Big Five.
Yeah, and then right across from the restaurant in the parking lot, they do bike rentals, and that's where you can rent canoes and kayaks. That is not the Saugeen River, it's the old, how do you say it, old Sauble channel?
You got it.
I don't know. But you can still rent canoes and canoe there, and then of course there's the beach. There is a ton of trail loops. There's the nature center and the guided programs that Ontario Parks run, which are really, really great. And that's because it's a bigger established park. But I will say, in terms of the size, the signage isn't great in the park. And don't get lost if you're riding your bike, because you will cry. And you will be on the road for like 12 kilometers.
Oh my goodness. So we went for a bike ride. Amazing park for riding your bike. Definitely bring your bike. There's lots of trails. We went for a ride. We checked out the beach. It was a pretty casual ride. Looked at other parts of the campground. Had a great time. We got back to our bikes and we're like, do we go back the way we come? Or do do we go the other way? So do we go left or do we go right? And we rolled the dice and we went right, where we hadn't gone.
I think actually I was like, let's go this way. I'm sure it's quicker, but...
Well, it wasn't quicker. I don't think we saw another campsite till we got back to ours. I'm pretty certain we rode at least 10 kilometers. We rode up a hill and down a hill and up a hill. And every time you went up, you're like, I think this is the one. And then, of course, it wasn't. We didn't get passed by a car. Like maybe one car was out. So we rode a long way. Keep in mind, I have a nice bicycle. I was trying to be a gentleman. I did try to get Melina to take my bike. At the time, she had a bike that would be the equivalent of like a 1978 John Deere with a bad transmission. So she definitely had to work a lot harder, refused to give up her bike. Although I will note, very shortly after this trip, we bought her a brand new, pretty slick bike. So
I did. We did. This bike was like, we bought it when we were dating. So this is like definitely, well, we got married in 2002. So this was probably like 99 or 2000 that we bought this bike. And it was like the Canadian Tire Special. And I am very tall and I have very long legs. So it's a men's bike. So there's no, like, you have to climb over the bar to get on it. And this thing is just trash. Like it's over 20 years old. It was squeaky and uncomfortable, and I'm almost 45 years old, and you're hunched over like on a mountain bike, like your back just can't do it anymore. Yeah, it was very, very uncomfortable. So I'm very happy with my new bicycle.
Moral of the story is, like, for the second time in this podcast episode, maybe check ahead.
Yeah.
But anyways, you learn from what we did wrong.
Yeah. And listen, a lot of people love the Pinery. We love the Pinery, but I would say it's probably, be mindful of like long weekends at the Pinery, because they are going to be louder than normal. And if that's not your thing, then maybe sort of schedule a different time to visit is what I would say about that. So it's more buzzing with activity, I would say. So let's talk about the Google, because I did look up the Google rankings, as I do with every place we go, whether it be a restaurant or a campground or whatever. So as we mentioned, Sauble Falls is a 4.4. The Pinery is a 4.7, but I thought it would be a good idea to kind of pick a 5-star and a 1-star review, so we can kind of look at what the vibe of what people are thinking. So it's not just, our opinion. So the 1-star review at Sauble basically said, to be very honest, I have no idea why this place is named Provincial Park. Consider any roadside water puddle better than this. I'm serious, like, what exactly is this place? So I think this is maybe like a lunch bag letdown. Like maybe they expected the falls to be something more that they were. I don't know. But most of the 1-star reviews on the on Sauble, were about wardens cracking down on noise, or not doing so, and bathroom cleanliness. Now, the 5-star review, which I thought was very lovely, somebody said, beautiful park, quiet, excellent location. The falls are lovely, and it's so close to Bruce's Caves, which we've never been to. We should go. Sauble Beach and the beautiful sunsets, absolutely a must on the provincial park list for scenery and adventures. And this person goes on to say, lovely playground, well-maintained and close to a shelter/picnic facility. Restrooms clean and well-maintained. Dog friendliness, dogs are welcome everywhere. We took our beagle on hikes in town to the falls. And the picnic area, also well-maintained, large facilities for hosting a picnic in the falls and playground. So I think that kind of aligns, but you're going to get unhappy people everywhere. So let's maybe contrast that with the 1-star review from the Pinery, which basically maybe echoes the way we were feeling after our 12-kilometer impromptu bike ride with no water. But it said, too far from beach, too much driving into the woods, too many dogs in the park. All night we could hear barking, people not knowing how to control their dogs, etc., etc. Washrooms were clean. And I would say most of the other 1-star reviews I saw were due to the size of the park, like a lot of drivings, and then lack of directional roadsides, which I totally get. Now, the 5-star review that I chose it because it kind of encompasses a lot of what's available at the park. But this person said, it's an amazing park for camping. This was our second time and we stayed for 3 nights. The washrooms and showers were always clean and in close proximity. We stayed in Dunes area and it was a 10 to 15 minute walk to the beach for us. The beach is amazing. The first day it was very wavy, which made it really fun. And the next day the water was normal. The fishing at the park wasn't very good because of the pressure put on the fish at the dock. Even the panfish were very smart and hesitant to eat. So the fishing might be better with a boat though. We rented a canoe for an hour. It was very fun. And then they give the price, which I won't mention just because in case it's changed. And then the rental equipment, bikes and boats were in great condition. This park is a must go for all ages, especially kids. And mentioning Lake Huron, like maybe you can give an idea, because when anybody who's not visited this particular Great Lake, I think you are very familiar with the wave. I mean, Dan looks up the waves at Lake Huron like almost daily during fishing season. So what can you tell people about like what to expect with the lake?
So what I will tell you goes kind of for the entire length of the Lake Huron shoreline. So whether we're talking about the Pinery or we're talking about Sauble Falls or we're talking about any park in between, this is a big lake. Like this is one of the Great Lakes. And so you need to be mindful of the undercurrent. And the undercurrent, maybe some people would refer that to the riptide. But when the lake is rough, you can't just go jumping into the lake and go for a swim. So if you have little swimmers, even on a day when lots of people are in the water, you should still be keeping an eye on them, and you need to make a judgment call because there will not be lifeguards there. This is not like swimming on a big beach in California. There are no lifeguards.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've seen days when somebody has gone missing and they've had to clear the beach, or we've had to do the extended line, and it's not fun. So that's like your public service announcement to just be careful. Now, can you go there on some days and swim? Absolutely. There's days where you can skip stones and it feels like maybe you could skip one right across to Michigan. But some days the lake is to be respected, and that's where I'll leave it.
Yep. No, I think that's really a very good summary and super important. So to summarize, we'll say Sauble Falls, smaller, intimate, cottage vibe, like true, like old-timey cottage vibe. Scenic Falls, the Pinery for larger rigs, families looking for sort of expansive amenities, sort of resort style as much as you can get in a provincial park, I guess. Beaches, and like a high energy sort of vibe for a beach town. So
I'm going to jump in for just 1 second. So how we did these trips, these weekends, was a little bit different. When we were in Grand Bend, we stayed really tight to Grand Bend. We didn't really go outside of Grand Bend other than to come or go from the area. And we drove into the town a couple of different times. We hit the flea market like we mentioned. We had a great lunch one day. So that was really great. Nothing wrong with that. Traffic is a little bit busier, if I recall correctly, just trying to get in and out of Grand Bend. There's more cars, more stoplights. The river kind of bisects the town, so the drive time can be a little bit longer than what you might expect for the distance you have to cover. But like, don't pull the fire alarm. Yeah. Sauble Beach, on the other hand, we did used it as a bit of a jumping off point, and this is maybe it. And these aren't good or bad for either park. We used it as a jumping off point. So we went up to Wyerton and Colpoist Bay, and we hit a few antique places along the way. So we kind of did a bit of a drive that day, and we kind of saw the Georgian Bay side a little bit as well. So if you want to use that as a jumping off area to see, go up to Tobermory or go down to Southampton, it's a good park for that. And you might end up doing that after you've seen everything that Sauble Beach has to have. But I would say it's really good for that. Those are kind of two pros, I think, or kind of neutrals for those two parks about how we did our weekends there. And they were both really enjoyable. Yeah,
I would say for sure. And I didn't mention this before, but the Pinery to Grand Bend is 9.5 kilometers. So you're about double the time it takes from Sauble Falls to Sauble Beach. So who wins? What's the verdict? Do you want to say on 3? Because I don't know what you're going to say.
Okay, but then we're going to say why?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, 3.
1. Oh, we can't even agree how we're doing the countdown. All right, you do the countdown and we'll say.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Sauble.
Yeah.
Oh. Legit, we didn't know what either person was going to say.
Okay, so why do you say that?
So for Sauble, I'll tell you why this is important for me. It's the kind of place your kid can go and go fishing by themselves along the river. I think that's important for kids to get out
on the east side.
Yeah, on the east side. But I think that's important for kids to get out and do that kind of outdoor activity. So that's one reason. The second reason, I really enjoyed the kayak ride up the river. I would go up there just for the day, just to do that. I mean, fortunately, we live close enough that it's a good day trip town. I would go back to do that again in a heartbeat. One of my favorite memories of something we've done in the trailer. And then the last thing, so remember earlier on I mentioned that I got a really good perch lunch. That was amazing. I take that opportunity to have perch when I can, and I appreciate it. But we had an amazing lunch at a little place on the beach with a patio, and I swear to God, Jimmy Buffett or Kenny Chesney was going to come out at any minute and say hi. It was just really chill. The food was awesome. I don't remember what kind of beer we had. It was probably some kind of Brazilian tasty beer on a hot day, but super chill that way. And so that's why I pick Sauble. those are my 3 reasons.
It was a local brew, if I remember. I'm actually just looking back at my notes because we do notes now because we're so professional. And I wrote down the name of it, but I think I skipped over it. And that was one of my main reasons why. But if I look here, I don't know where it is. Oh yeah, Sola's Grill it's called. I did write it down. And there's also the Luscious Bakery, which is in this tiny little building behind, like as you kind of go back towards behind the washrooms that are kind of adjacent to the beach. There's a little bakery called Luscious Bakery, which is so cute. But yeah, Sola's Grill is what it was called. And we had like the best patio burger I think we've ever had.
But the vibe was awesome. There wasn't a lineup to get in. There was a bit of atmosphere, but it wasn't jammed, and it was like a private little place. It wasn't like they tried to squeeze every last ounce out of their patio.
Yeah.
That's what made it cool and awesome.
Yeah, and I liked, everything that Dan said, but I also liked it because of the small footprint, because there's, I like just, the chill vibes of, very, unbusy, unbothered parks where you've got, volleyball and a basketball court and a nice playground and tons of picnic space where you can just grab a blanket and go sit out in the sun. And I can't really kind of put a finger on it, but I just appreciate that vibe about the park. And it's sort of less of that traditional party park. And maybe we just want to be contrary to all of those who...
Yeah, I don't think I found the Pinery the weekend we went to be a party park. We had a good chat with the gentleman across the road. He was super friendly. I enjoyed my time. I'm going to go back to the Pinery.
Oh, for sure.
We're never not going to go back to the Pinery. I don't know if I got the right knots in the right order there, but we're going to go back to the Pinery. It was awesome, but I think Sauble Falls, you have to pick a winner and a loser, and that's why I picked Sauble.
Yeah. So that's it. That's our winner. Decreed. I think we need a judge's gavel that we can slam on the table after all of these. But if you have 2 parks that you think you would like us to compare, that are in close proximity or maybe not so close proximity, but share some features.
Similar qualities.
Yeah, similar qualities. Let us know. So always reach out to us TikTok, Instagram, or by email, hello@rvcanucks.com. You can also message us on Facebook. And we'll take that and we will create a little bit of a story for you. So I think we're going to do a few more of these because we have a couple that we are really thinking about, but we've got some other new content. I'm not going to say what, because then we're hemmed in and don't have any creative vibe to change it up. So we will talk to you again in 2 very short weeks. And we are excited to get this 5th season off the ground.
Really excited. I'm really excited to get out there and get some camping done and do some cool podcasts.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
I love you, honey.
Love you too.
Happy 5th.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.